Is this the sound American diplomats in Cuba heard during possible sonic weapon attacks on the U.S. Embassy? The Associated Press obtained the recordings of high-pitched, pulsing sounds some embassy workers claim they heard in the alleged attacks that started last year.
The recording gives us the first tangible sense of what it was like for these American government workers in Havana who were hearing these unexplained sounds in their residences and later developed physical symptoms.
The U.S. State Department reportedly said at least 20 Americans were confirmed to have suffered physical symptoms, including hearing loss, dizziness, and concussions after hearing the mysterious noises.
And then the other is, it's not just a very disturbing high-pitched noise, but there might even be voices or a message, a continual message that people have been victimized by, this sound.
The idea is that V2K can be used as what they call an invisible scarecrow to get in people's heads, to drive them virtually insane.
My microwave auditory effect, or V2K, started in the summer of 2010.
Okay, V2K, voice to skull.
Voice to skull.
Voice to skull, also known as V2K, is a form of harassment in which the victim claims that voices are being beamed directly into their minds through modulated waves that can silently travel great distances and temporarily incapacitate victims.
How would you describe the audio?
It was like a cell phone up to my ear. It was so crystal clear. It was non-stop. I was getting sleep deprivation. They'd keep me up for, I think the longest I was up for was 8 days. They told me that you might want to consider suicide.
So we can't hear this. It's going to, I haven't turned it on yet. When I do, it's going to blast out a 65 kilohertz beam. Because the wavelength is so small, it doesn't spread. Because 65 kilohertz has a wavelength like that. So it's going to be, in that sense, similar to a laser. It just comes right out as a beam. Now, how do we make that audible? Well, they put a modulation on top of the 65 kilohertz. There's a modulation. And now, here's the next thing I have to tell you. That 65 kilohertz is very high amplitude. It won't hurt you, we don't think. Okay? You certainly can't hear it, and we don't think it'll hurt you. And it's very high amplitude. And what happens when you have two sound waves like this, sound plus sound can create sound, but only at high amplitudes. At low amplitudes, sound waves just travel right through each other. You may be sort of familiar with this. But at high amplitudes, you can create sound. So what happens in this apparatus is the audio sound, the sound that you're going to hear, is actually created in the beam, not here. And because it's created in the beam and it stays in the beam, we have a beam of sound. So let me demonstrate this for you. Let me turn it on. And I'm going to find the piece of music that we like.
Yeah.
You may not like it.
The Eagles? You like the Eagles? Okay, good. Oh, we have a friendly audience this year.
Yeah. I think they're just saying it to make us feel better.
Right. All right.
It's worth the $2,000. It's not our money. Now, the sound that you're hearing is being created in this beam. It almost sounds like it's coming from your head. So let me try to scan the whole audience here so everybody can hear this. Absolutely remarkable. Pete, are you getting it? Let's try to, one more thing. Let's try to bounce it off the wall. Raise your hand if you can very clearly hear it. I'm going to try to bounce it off the wall. Look at where the hands are raised. It's
They're not just designed to make people feel like they're going crazy or to torture people. These weapons are designed to kill and to cause cancer and heart attacks and strokes. In the government documents, they clearly say microwave radiation produces heart seizures, neurological pathologies, which include strokes and aneurysms and the like. Many people have been taken out like that. Effects on the central nervous system, MS, and other neurological disorders, but also causing cancers, mutations in the chromosomes. This is everywhere in the DoD documents, and the Pentagon admits it themselves.
Your assessments here are correct. These are very covert weapons, aren't they?
The symptoms of acute radiation sickness would be just exactly like a terrible flu. A person would have a headache. They would feel very tired. They would have a little bit of a fever.
But it can also target people with surgical precision and kill them in ways you can't even imagine, causing specific cancers or heart attacks or strokes. This system was quietly deployed while we were busy doom scrolling from crisis to crisis, from election to election. They've been working on this for decades. They've been microwaving people since the 1960s. Now they've automated it with AI. And so this is a huge concern, especially if you've been flagged by social media. Oh, they wanted your ID. They wanted to know who you were so that you could be safe. No, it's so that you could be targeted. And that's the sad world that we find ourselves in right now. People are being targeted worldwide, wherever they go, with surgical precision. And it's not until you pick up on this that things really begin to get strange. Once you start shielding, the system begins to compensate. This system knows you're going to shield. This system knows you're going to run. This system knows what you're going to do. The first signs are chronic fatigue, heart palpitations, recurring headaches, pain not associated with an injury, like recurring back problems. Then you start getting suspicious. You go by a meter, you start seeing weird stuff happening in your house. And so eventually, most people, or at least some people, will begin to shield. And they'll start with aluminum foil and mylar. The system knows this. And the system is built to be bunker busting. This is military grade technology. This isn't somebody with a ham radio next door and a Yagi antenna. This is much more sophisticated. And so once the system knows that you know, then a siege begins. And they start bringing in more weapons until they basically finish you off. And everybody thinks you're crazy. People try to run, they lose their jobs, they end up on the street, they're being attacked, and they're just finished off, and people are like, oh, that's too bad. Well, it is too bad. People are being erased on an industrial scale for free. And it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, that would be an incredibly interesting question. I don't have access to those people to find that out, but imagine a knife wound, a stab wound, and you keep turning the knife. There's no way for the brain to heal. There's no way for this psychological scarring from all the breakdown scripts and torture to actually heal, because it's continuous. It's a slow kill weapon in a way.
But the
How could you disable a person? That would be scrambling their brains. That'd be dopamine dumps. That would be making, concussion weapons. That would be somehow affecting their nervous system so they drop on the ground. So it's a combination of psychological warfare as well as directed energy weapons, along with the voice of God weapons, with voice morphing, with artificial intelligence chatterbots. It's the most complex weapon system we have put together ever as a species.